In Ivory Coast, that's where you have the most interesting election in Africa. The first runoff was, the first ballots were cast on the 31st. 3 candidates, emerged. You have the current president, Laurent Gbagbo. Then you have Alassane Ouattara. He was the former vice president of the World Bank. And former president Konan Bedie. So out of 3 of them, 2 will have a runoff on November 30th. Laurent Gbagbo, who is the president, and Alassane Ouattara. The interesting thing is that in the last elections, about 8 years ago, the guy who ran third this time was President Konan Bedie. He was challenged by Ouattara. But guess what? He said, oh, no, Ouattara is not a citizen of Ivory Coast and he can't run for election. Okay? Yeah, but Ouattara was prime minister under Houphouët-Boigny for at least 3 years.
And now he can't run for
Exactly. Now he's not a citizen of the country, so he can't run. Okay? That action by Bedie precipitated the current crisis in Ivory Coast, because what happened was Ouattara is from the northern part of the country. And then citizens of Ivory Coast who come from the north have had grievances that they were being discriminated against. So when Ouattara was disallowed, from running, now the army came in, overthrew Bedie. What happened? A few years later, then the guys from the north rebelled, and Ivory Coast is split into 2 today.
And today, just because of that?
Just because of that, mistake Bedie made. You see, Houphouët-Boigny spent all these years building a prosperous country, and Bedie destroyed it in a few months just to stay in power by trying to disenfranchise Ouattara. So ironically now, Ouattara is running against Gbagbo, for the presidency. So November 30th will be crucial. Most observers have to say 2 things will happen. If Ouattara loses, there might be riots. The North will not believe he lost fairly. Now the country might stay divided. Those controlling might not, want to have reintegration. If Gbagbo loses, there's this that the army will not allow Ouattara to take power. So it will be interesting to see what happens on November 30th. Guinea has some problems now. The elections that were held, a few days ago, a week ago, was won by a guy called Alpha Condé. Now, the supporters of the opposition, of the opposition leader, Mr. Diallo, refused to accept the elections as free and fair. So now there are rioting and demonstrations in Guinea, and the army has declared a state of emergency. In the country because of it. This is the first democratic elections in Guinea's history since independence, because the first president, Sékou Touré, was a dictator, never allowed any elections. When he died, General Lansana Conté took over and imposed a dictatorship too, no elections. When Conté died, a few days later, a lieutenant took over power. And that's how they came to,
to an election now.
Exactly, to where they are now. So this election is very crucial for the country, But now the people refuse to accept the person who was elected. And the voting was based on ethnicity. The guy who won comes from an ethnic group called the Malinke. The one who lost comes from an ethnic group called the Pio. And the Pules complain they've never been president of Guinea before, and they want their own person to be president.
Dr. Drew, we're getting ready for this second commercial break, and then we'll come back and we'll delve deeper into this political intrigue in a real sense that somehow is leaving Africa rather than staying around. And of course, we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break.